Alright, the first element, understanding and managing the emotions that come with change. You have to realize that the amount of emotions will vary depending upon, how big the change is for people. You also have to realize that you can't get rid of the emotions. You can definitely manage them, and as a good change leader you can reduce them or reduce the amount of time people experience with these emotions, but you can't avoid them. The next 6 leadership elements that I'll talk about will help you to manage and lead in a way that people can manage those emotions. I learned a long time ago that it's really important. It's all about attitude. And the first person that has to have the right attitude is the change leader or the change consultant. And I realize I have to bring that out of my clients by demonstrating a positive attitude and faith in a successful outcome and encouraging them to think big and believe that it's possible to get through and stay positive. It's kind of like cheerleading in some respects. That's why the first book on my list is The Magic of Thinking Big, written by a guy named David Schwartz. Read this when I was young. I've read it over and over. Who Moved My Cheese? Spencer Johnson, Ken Blanchard. This is really good stuff and gets at the emotions of change. Anything on appreciative inquiry. This is the thin book of appreciative inquiry. It's about, this one here, Encyclopedia of Positive Questions. It's about asking positive questions, not dwelling on the negatives. Finally, you might want to take a look at something like this, Psychoanalysis of Organizations, and study some of the behavioral scientists, people like Carl Jung, and study some of the thinking behind what individuals are going through, because it's similar for groups and systems. Second element is creating leadership alignment around common vision, common outcomes, and benefits. Now this is required whether you're working with one leader, 2 leaders, or a whole team of leaders. It's an activity you have to start early, and you have to monitor it. You have to work with them and do that coaching to help them stay aligned. John Kotter wrote a great book, Leading Change. I highly recommend this book, and in this book he says leaders have to repeat the vision over and over and over. I think they got to repeat it until they get sick of repeating it. That's when, Now, when you're working with leadership teams, or any teams, you're going to see a lot of group dynamics, so that's another area you have to be sensitive to. And with leadership teams, the higher up you are in an organization, the more power and politics you're going to see. Power and politics are a normal, natural part of systems, so you just need to learn how it works, stay calm, learn how to handle it, because work gets done with power and politics. The third blog that we'll look at, the third element of change leadership, is coaching and empathetic listening. Now, be prepared to set aside a lot of time to coach your peers, the leaders, the team members. Coaching is important. It's very helpful for people. They need someone. Reading on this, Coaching for Improved Work Performance by Fourniers. It's an old book, but a good one. And here's a real good one, The 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard. If you haven't read it lately, I recommend reading it again. It's got some very basic and simple tips in there for how to manage and how to coach. The fourth element is project management. And in my opinion, you'll probably spend 50% of your time doing project management. And so you need to know how to do it well. And it's extremely important for helping to manage the emotions and accelerating the change. This book here, Just Enough Project Management by Curtis Cook, would be a good idea. It's got some basic project management in it, and we'll talk more about what's important to focus on in the video blog. Fifth element in our Change Leadership video blog series is meeting management and group facilitation. This one's really important because change is actually created through a series of meetings, and people don't really like meetings, so you got to make every one count. This book, The Facilitator's Field Book, has a lot of great tips in it, and I'll share some of those with you in the meeting management video blog. 2 more to go. Number 6. Involvement and engagement tactics. Now, creating change in the back room is usually not very successful and very unpopular. So you need to reach out to people and you need to give them a chance to be heard. So we'll talk about that in that video blog on involvement and engagement. This book here, The Change Handbook, is a compilation of a lot of different large change involvement techniques. Everything from future search to open space to appreciative inquiry. So if you're doing big change and you're bringing large groups of people together, this could be a good one for you. Alright, number 7, communications. Good communications, they come from careful stakeholder analysis and examination of the different communication channels, and looking at the channels that work and the messages that you need to put in those channels to create a communication plan. We'll talk about that in our communications video blog. This book here, The Change Leader's Roadmap by Linda Ackerman Anderson, is an awesome book. This would summarize nearly everything we just talked about and gets at some really good points on communications. So those are the 7 elements that I think are important in change leadership. I'll outline them in the video blog series. I also believe that as a change leader, you're always consulting, whether an internal or an external or a leader that's been assigned to a big change project, a project manager. I think Peter Block's book, Flawless Consulting, is an excellent way to get your expertise utilized in the system.